Hey everybody, quick impromptu little video here that we're doing. So this time around we are kind of doing a cleanup of the back room here, and we are changing our channel up. So some of the things that you're going to be used to are going to update a little less frequently, but we're also going to push towards more content. So that being said, here's what's going on in our news. So first of all, we are still trying to do a video a week. As far as the normal Cards and Cardboard board game reviews, we still have quite a bit of games to get through. So we're going to get those out as quick as we can. We're having to take a slight delay for a few personal matters, so it's nothing too big, but just know that we are working hard to try to develop a few new videos. And I'm also running a blog on Board Game Geek now for the board and card games on Steam. So the board and card games on Steam section is all about what games are available on Steam. They might be cross-compatible with what's going on in the iOS and Android marketplace, and I'll try to link those. But for now, that's where the digital reviews are going as well, and that's kind of the big purpose of them. Now, as you'll note, I have a big tub here. Now, this tub is symbolic in the sense that we are actually getting a few things out of our collection. The way we do this is normally we basically go to the Games Plus local auction. They hold it twice a year in March and October. And what you can do is you can bring in old and gently loved board games, and what will happen is you put a price on them, and they'll go up into an auction, and people can bid on them. And whatever the bid gets to is how much store credit you'll receive. So it's a good way for us to not only cull out a few of the games that we're not playing anymore, or we don't want anymore. It's also a way we can get new games and support the local store, since it's also all in store credit. So I thought we'd do like a mini review video here for some of the games in my collection that we're going to be putting into the auction and into this tub. Since we probably won't get to those on the channel, I figured it'd be a quick way of kind of, cutting a few things in. So mind a few cuts that are coming up here. My wife and I have a lot to do, so here's what's coming into the box. So the first game that we're putting in is a copy of 221 Baker Street. The reason why this is going into the auction is, honestly, it was a purchase for my wife, and we really never got around to playing it. And we're actually kind of hoping to get a copy of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and then maybe later turn that into the auction as well, just to keep that game alive. For those of you not familiar with this is kind of a Clue-style Sherlock Holmes game, printed somewhere back in like the 70s. We never really touched any of the parts in here. There's a lot of the adventures in here relatively untouched, so hopefully somebody will appreciate this. Unfortunately, never really got around to playing it, and that's the reason why it's going into the tub. Alright, so next we have Arcana, which is a smash-up style card playing game. What you do is you basically have a deck of cards that you start playing with, and as you gradually conquer districts in the city, you'll get more cards to utilize and exploit in your own deck. And whoever has the most points after all the cards in like the middle junction are out of the game will win that. And we had some good fun with this in our group. Unfortunately, with Smash Up and a few other games in our collection, this just isn't coming out as often as we'd like. We actually did have a planned review for this at one point, but unfortunately the footage was a little choppy. Plus, I was still relatively new then, so we weren't able to get that out. I still highly recommend this game. It's a lot of fun, but in a world where Smash Up exists and a few other games, this doesn't have as much interest from many people because of the lack of the fantastical themes that are going on in Smash Up. So we still like it, but again, we kind of want to just make some room in our collection, so that's why we're deciding to get rid of this. Again, some love for Arcana, the revised edition, whatever it is from Fantasy Flight. That's going into the tub. Okay, so depending on when our next review comes out, we will actually have a review for Automobiles by AEG coming out. This is a copy of Roadkill Rally, which was kind of a Carmageddon-style racing game. We never actually did get around to playing this. However, we did like the ideas of it, but after reading the rules and kind of getting lost in that, we just found other racing games that we have appreciated a bit more. So it's not from the lack of us not wanting to play this game. It's just we never got around to it. Uh, I've read the rule book. I've looked through the parts. Everything seems pretty nice and succinct. However, it just isn't coming along for our long ride here because we've got Snowtails that we still need to play, as well as AEG's Automobiles, which we're really enjoying. So we figured we don't need that many race games in our collection, so we're putting this Roadkill Rally by Z-Man Games into the auction. Okay, so the next one what we're putting in is Bigness, a two-player abstract game from Hoochie and Friends. Now the reason why we're putting this in is because obviously my wife and I have a lot of two-player abstracts, and I have a decent collection of solo games now, so there really isn't much room in our collection for stuff like this right now. We had fun with it, but it seemed like the Duke offers a lot more possibilities, and you've probably seen our review from the Duke and the Jarl a while back, and we've just really been in love with that for our two-player games. So unfortunately, it doesn't have room in our collection anymore, but I'm hoping that somebody will like this nice little abstract game that we did have fun with. We just think that it'd be nice to have a little bit more playing decisions out there. I mean, it's a great tiny little area control-esque style game where you're pushing the tiles off this little plastic tray. All the chips are really nice and they feel good, but the gameplay just wasn't deep enough for my wife and I. Okay, so this one is the Ares project by Z-Man Games by Jeff Engelstein and a bunch of people from the two Engelsteins, father and son team, I believe. Brian and Jeff. The reason why we're putting this into the auction is we played it a few times, and while yes, we were a little confused by the rules, what we ended up playing we enjoyed for a while, but really and truly, we have some other games like this kind of in our collection already for these card-playing games and this kind of bluffing games. What it came down to is we didn't like some of the dice rolls and the combat from it. We're looking for something similar in flavor, but at this time we just have tried playing this 2 and 3 and 4 players with our local game group. It doesn't get out often enough, and honestly, I mean, we're looking for fun, and it's really hard to explain all the rules to some people, so it's really hard to have a lot of fun when somebody has to be stuck learning all the rules all over again, or they forget between sessions. So that's unfortunately why we're getting at the Ares project. I personally really like the idea of it. However, my wife said, it's about time that we move on from this. Alright, so this is the original version of Pandemic with the expansion in it. The only reason why I'm really wanting to throw this in the auction is because I've played Pandemic to death at this point, and I don't have any of the new Pandemic products, so it's hard for me to kind of want to invest in the new card decks when I could probably just go out and get a new copy of Pandemic, since the board on this one is getting a little bit well loved and the cards are a little loved. So hopefully somebody will enjoy this and the expansion. I know I've really had a lot of fun with Pandemic. I really like co-ops. But we have Flashpoint, and we have some high hopes that eventually we might actually be able to get Pandemic Legacy. And that would be a great investment, I feel, because our group really likes Pandemic, but we are kind of looking for a bit more of the expansions. And unfortunately, because we only have the first edition of this, unless we're paying for new cards and stuff, we are actually not doing so well with that. So we'd rather just go out and buy the new second edition version of the game than hold on to this first edition. So that's the only reason why that's going to auction. Again, really great game by Z-Man Games. Okay, so some of you from the beginning of the channel will know of Dark Seas, our little pirate rondel game. I really did like this game. It was a little simplistic for our group, though. Not to say that that's a bad thing. If I was had kids or anyone else to play this with that was really interested, I feel that this would be a really good introductory Euro game. However, at this time, our group is pretty much divided between, heavier Euro crowds and then more casual, I don't know how to describe our crowd, but our most popular games that we end up playing are things like the Pathfinder adventure card game system, Cyclades. We have a lot of Kingsburg every now and then there. So something like this just isn't meshing as well as I thought it would. I was thankful enough to get this product for free from AEG during one of the tabletop days. I really enjoy this game, but I feel like somebody out there might enjoy it a little bit more than me. So I'm hoping that somebody picks this up and gives it a nice loving home. So the next thing that we're putting in the auction is actually this unsealed version of Anno 1503. We were lucky enough to pick this up at a local Savers, and I haven't been able to get anybody interested in playing this with me. Now, I actually really like the names attached to this. Klaus Teuber of Catan fame and the Settler series, and I actually really enjoyed playing Anno on the PC. However, unfortunately, this thing just doesn't drive enough interest in order to get to my table at all. Again, our crowd of players is looking for maybe a little bit more thematic stuff in their games, or really good crunchy decision making, and this one I think just never drove enough interest, so we're hoping somebody will actually play this. Alright, now here's one that I actually did really enjoy a lot. It's from the Cosmos 2-player line put out by Mayfair. It was the Pillars of the Earth Builders Duel. Now this one had a coin flipping mechanic, which was really interesting. However, my wife didn't quite like it as much, so there's a little bit of contention about that as far as our 2-player games. We would probably be more likely to play a two-player version of Castilian or something more cooperative, or something more diametrically opposed, something maybe a little deeper like Summoner Wars. So that's the reason why I have to give this one up. I did appreciate it. I thought it was really fun, had some little clever things in it. However, for our 2-player group, between me and my wife, we have a few more options, and unfortunately she didn't like this one as much as I did, so that's another reason why this one's going in the auction. Okay, I don't know why I keep getting Legend of the 5 Rings stuff, but apparently I've been given a few starter sets for this game a few times in the past, and it's just never really stuck between me and my wife. I've enjoyed the systems. I really like the theme and the lore and the whole living card game nature. However, it was always a collectible game, and now that it's being relaunched by Fantasy Flight as a true living card game, we're actually considering just investing in that instead for a bit. Depending on their release schedule, we might pull back because we did get a little Netrunner fatigue, and honestly, right now my wife and I aren't playing a lot of Netrunner right now, but our big game has been Ashes, and we've had a lot of fun with that, and we're looking forward to more stuff from Plaid Hat Games on that front. But again, for 2-player competitive stuff, I think our group is pretty much deeply still rooted in Magic and Ashes. I mean, I get the occasional Netrunner in the area, but it's a little investment on our part to go out and do game nights involved with just one card game, and that's kind of rough on us. We're hoping maybe to look at more possibilities for some of the Fantasy Flight living card games. While we enjoy Netrunner, it's been really hard to keep up with the data packs, especially since we don't play competitively, and we think Legend of the 5 Rings is going to be up the same alley. However, we're hoping that Fantasy Flight will maybe delay their release schedule, or maybe my wife will actually get interested in Doomtown and will allow me to get a copy of that. So here's hoping that I might pick up something like that. So next we have a few of our smaller games, of things that we probably wanted to review at one time, but again, we liked having a few smaller games around, but these just aren't getting as much play as some of our other smaller card games, such as My Star or other things. So we're going to start with Iota. Now, this is a Mensa Select winner. We like this game. The problem is we already own Quirkle, and the scoring mechanics are very similar to Quirkle, but Quirkle's a little less thinky compared to Iota. Now, while we do like Iota for its clever thinkiness and its pattern recognition, we just are able to get Quirkle out much faster, and it's more bulkier, and actually it takes up a little less table space than Iota, because the tiles are a little smaller than the actual cards of the game. That, and people like the tiles a little bit more, and it's one of those textile things. People appreciate the tiles, so that's why that one's going in the box. Now, next thing I got is the Back to the Future card game. This is actually based on Chrononauts, which is another Looney Labs game. The reason why we're putting this in the auction is, again, general lack of interest. I appreciate it for what it is, but the end game is a little bit of a mix-up bag, because basically you're trying to undo time travel at a certain point, and it has a random chance of every time you're trying to undo it, you got to check and see if you're drawing the right card. So that really kind of killed it. We would have preferred that the game rather just kind of ended when you set up all of the stuff correctly for your timeline. Um, that being said, we don't really kind of enjoy these time travel games, and this does take a lot of coffee table space when we're playing it out on the road. So unfortunately, due to lack of interest, we're having to put Back to the Future, the card game, into the auction. Now, this one was a bit of a surprise. Now, my wife and I really enjoy KGB versus CIA, the Cold War card game. And this is the Star Wars Empire versus Rebellion card game, which is based pretty much on the same system. However, there's enough changes in here where my wife actually finds this game fairly boring. I know it's a little hard to say that I blame a lot of this on my wife, but honestly, I see what she means about this as well, because what they changed up in the game was basically the way cards could untap using these little resource chips that come in here, and that can prolong the game life, because now all of a sudden the cards that you've committed to something can get untapped. Not to mention there's this whole new resource system with the character cards here that can be randomly put in your deck, or you can get more of them in your deck. These give you kind of some special powers, but once they're used up, they get tapped. So they are 6 and 1. They're one time in use only in that case. But with the resource counters, you can untap them. But the game just slowed down and really bogged down. I mean, Christy and I are lucky if we can finish a game of KGB versus CIA in an hour. This one takes even more time than that. And, we liked some of the simplicity that came from KGB versus CIA Cold War. And unfortunately, Star Wars Rebellion just didn't keep up with the promise of maybe making it more streamlined or even making it quicker, in which case it actually made it a little slower. And I know I may be a little crazy for saying it, but overall, we, for some reason, like the KGB versus CIA theme a little bit better. We might be looking at a copy in the future of maybe Star Wars Rebellion if I can afford it, but that's a pretty big if in the future. And considering how grand the scale of that game is, it's going to be pretty hard getting that to the table. In the meantime, I've also been looking at other Star Wars games that would interest me. Of course, we have Star Wars Risk now, which, it's a really nice, quick game, and we've been liking that a lot too. So, unfortunately, Star Wars Empire vs. Rebellion going into the box. Okay, I think that's about it for what we're actually going to be putting in the auction. We have a few more pieces that are kind of just minimalistic stuff, like sleeves and some collectible stuff. Again, I really appreciate the Games Plus auction. We go there about twice every year, and they only run it twice a year. But it's a really great way to support the local store, get more people in the door, and they get store credit basically for whenever you sell your goods. So not only are you helping out a gamer by giving them more store credit so they can buy new games, you're also helping the store because then they can get rid of some of their stock and drive interest and bring more people in for sales. Now, that being said, there are a few things that you're needing to know. You can't be too dumb out there. It's really easy to spend a lot of money as someone who buys a lot of secondhand games at times. I know I still have a few games that I have yet to play that I gotten from the auction that are not going in there, and it is because they still have some interest in our group. Things such as Space Empires 4X and Middle-earth Quest. We've played those not as much as we'd like, maybe once or twice a year, but the interest is still high and people still like them, so that's why we keep them in the collection. However, at this time, we have a few other games that are just getting played just that much more, and that's what really helps us decide what kind of things we're going to keep in our collection, which things we're not going to invest in. And of course, we like to do kind of the genre thing where we go down the list and go like, okay, do we have something similar to this? Do we have something similar to that? Do I need a copy of Sorry Sliders now that I have a Crokinole board? Maybe, maybe not. Not sure yet. Things like Magic the Gathering with the Planeswalkers. We also have a copy of Duel of Ages 1, or no, Duel of Ages 2, the basic set. We're looking on getting a copy of the Master set sometime if we can ever find a copy at a reasonable price. So that just gives you an idea of what kind of things that we do outside here. Now, as far as channel updates, we're going to have a few updates on the channel here. We are doing a second video game only channel with me and my wife and a few friends. It's going to be called Forced to Play. It's going to have some little narrative and skit humor in there, but mostly it's going to be us playing games and really just kind of hanging out. And we'd love to take advice or requests for people who want to see certain games get played. Right now we are going to start with our month of love here. So it's going to be my wife and I playing a little bit of Lovers in Dangerous Space Time, and then we're going to do maybe some more gameplay of the tabletop to find some more things that we're going to compete with. We might even do a couples version of Codenames, where we'll be doing couples with my friends and my wife and I, and we might record that because we're actually really in love with that Codenames game right now. But anyways, that's all that we have for channel updates. We will be continuing our support of the various products you've seen here, and we will be posting as many reviews as we possibly can during this time. So thank you so much for watching. This has been Cards and Cardboard with our little reviews of stuff that we're taking to the Games Plus auction.